So to deploy Customer within Kubernetes, let me go ahead and close this file and this file, and within Minikube folder, let's have a new folder, and here I'm going to name this as services, and within services let's have Customer. So this will be yet another folder, and basically per microservice we want to have a different folder with their YAMLs. Now in order for us to deploy Customer, we need the following. So here I'm going to have a new file, and let's start with the service. So I'm going to say service dot and then YAML. Here I'm going to use auto completion, so K, and this is a service. There we go. And here the name will be Customer, and then the port will be 80, and we're going to say the target port is 8080. So again, 80 here is so that we remove the need of specifying ports from our applications. So if I open up clients, have a look, clients-cube.properties, here I'm just saying Customer. So Customer refers to the name of this service, and the port is 80. If I had 8080 in here, then this would need to be 8080. But we don't want ports, so let's just get rid of that and leave this as 80. Now for the type, I want this to be a load balancer, and I'll explain load balancers in a second, but effectively in here we are configuring the service, and I'm saying that this will be type load balancer. Now really what we want is to have an ingress in here, but we're not quite there yet. So for now, let's just say load balancer. Now if you're running Kubernetes in, for example, EKS, that will spin up an application load balancer for you. So it will spin up an application load balancer for you. And again, we don't have this ingress yet, but I'll touch on ingresses in a second. All right, and this is pretty much everything we have to do for the service. Now let's create in here a new file, and I'm going to say deployment dot and then YAML, and here I'm going to say K, and I'm going to choose Kubernetes deployment. The name for this will be Customer. Now make sure that the replicas is 1. Make sure that replicas for now is 1. And I'm going to explain this in a second why, but for now just leave it as 1. Then for the image, we're going to say this is Amigos code / customer column and then latest. And if you don't specify this tag, it will basically pull latest anyways. Now for image pull policy here, you can basically change this to always or never. Actually, you don't want never. So maybe you always want to pull the latest image, or if not present. And in fact, let's just say always. So because we're testing things, it doesn't really make a difference. Next, we need to define the ports. So ports, and the container port for Customer is 8080. There we go. And last but not least, I want to specify the environment. And here, so remember, within our Docker Compose, we have Spring Profiles active equals to Docker. So we want the same thing, but the value will be cube. So Customer in here has this, oops, not there, but in here it has this application-cube.yaml. So we want to select this file. And to be honest, this is the configuration that we need. Obviously, we can configure resources, limits and requests. We can also configure the liveness and readiness probes, but this is the bare minimum configuration that you need in order to have a deployment with one replica up and running. Now, the reason why I said one in here is because if I open up the application-cube.yaml, in here, have a look, the Hibernate DDL auto, this is create drop. This is create drop. So it means that if a second pod comes along, it will basically destroy the database. So this right here, you only have it for testing purposes, and you can go and basically say, for example, update, so that it doesn't delete data. And in my case, I really don't care about the data, so I'm going to leave create drop. And in the replicas, I'm going to leave as 1 as well, because I also don't think I have many resources, because I only have 16 gig and I've got a lot of things already up and running on my machine. So I'm going to leave the replicas to 1. But usually you want to have 3 replicas at least, so that your application is always up and running if one fails, right? But again, this is when you go to production. For testing, you can leave it as 1, and this should be okay. And there we go. This is customer. Next, let's apply this YAML.